You wake up in a body that is yours, but the world around it is not. The ceiling above you is stone. The air is cold enough to sting your nose. Smoke hangs low in the shelter, blue and thin, carrying the smell of last night's fire. For one confused second, you wait for the familiar shape of your life to return. It does not. There is no bedroom, no door, no glass in the window because there is no window, only the black mouth of a rock shelter opening onto a pale, dangerous dawn. Around you, 20 or 30 people sleep in a loose knot of hides, hair, breath, and warmth. Some are relatives, some are not. All of them unnecessary. Then you understand the strangest thing of all. This is not a disaster. This is normal. This is an ordinary morning for a human being 40,000 years ago. Somewhere outside, birds are calling. A child whimpers and is pulled closer under a fir. Someone near the embers opens one eye, listens to the world, and decides it is safe enough to breathe deeply again.
If you had to survive here for one day, what would actually kill you first? Hunger? Cold? A predator? A poisonous root? An infected scratch? Or would it be something quieter? Not knowing how to read the ground? Not knowing who to trust? Not knowing which story around the fire was really a warning disguised as entertainment? That is the part movies usually miss. Prehistoric life was not just a battle against animals with large teeth. It was a battle against ignorance. Every track meant something. Every plant had a season. Every face in the camp carried a history of favors, debts, loyalties, and old wounds. Survival was not muscle alone. It was memory. We often imagine early humans as primitive versions of us, rough sketches before civilization finished the portrait. But anatomically and mentally, Homo sapiens 40,000 years ago were already fully human. They could love, joke, grieve, teach, plan, decorate, sing, fear the dark, and stare at the stars with questions no one could answer.
So tonight, we are not visiting a cartoon cave world of grunting brutes and endless panic. We are stepping into one ordinary day in a small Paleolithic band. A day of fire, food, tools, gossip, children, danger, laughter, art, and sleep. And the more closely we look, the more uncomfortable the question becomes. Did they only survive? Or did they sometimes live better than we do?
The first thing you notice when you wake is the cold. Not the killing cold of deep winter, but the sharp morning chill that slips under hides and makes every body seek another body. You are lying on dried grasses and animal skins, pressed near relatives, friends, children, elders, and maybe someone you argued with yesterday. Privacy is not a normal condition here. Alone is dangerous. Warmth is shared. Safety is shared. Sleep itself is shared. Around you, the band begins to return from dreams one person at a time. A child kicks free from a fur covering. An elder coughs. Someone reaches toward the embers and begins coaxing the fire back to life. Fire is not background decoration. It is warmth, light, protection, cooking, craft, memory, and comfort. Let it die completely, and the morning becomes harder. You might have to create it again by friction, or carry embers from elsewhere. So someone has watched it through the night, feeding it just enough to keep a red heart alive. Sleep is not always one clean block. In a world without electric light, people may wake during the night, talk quietly, check the fire, nurse a child, listen to the dark, then sleep again. The night belongs not only to dreams, but to watchfulness. A cracking branch outside the circle of firelight matters.
The person nearest the fire adds thin sticks first, then thicker fuel. Smoke rises, sharp and familiar. Flames catch. Faces appear in orange light, tired, calm, lined with old scars, painted faintly with yesterday's ochre, hair tangled from sleep. No one jumps up in panic. There is work to do today, but there is no clock chasing them. Children wake fastest. That may be the most familiar thing in this ancient world. They stretch, crawl, whisper, then begin moving before adults are ready for movement. One child tries to steal a strip of leftover meat. Another pokes ash with a stick until someone gently pulls the stick away. Childhood is noisy, even in prehistory. Adults rise more slowly. They test their joints, scratch insect bites, stretch sore backs, and step outside to read the morning. The sky, the wind, the calls of birds, the smell of rain, the tracks near camp, all of it is information. A modern person checks notifications. A Paleolithic person checks the world. Someone sees hoofprints in damp soil. Someone else notices that the wind shifted after midnight. Birds are loud near the eastern trees, which may mean nothing, or may mean a fox or cat moved through. These details are not decoration. They are part of a lifelong education in noticing what the land is saying.
Plans form, but not like orders in a workplace. No one stands with a clipboard. People talk. A berry patch may be ready near the creek. There are old tracks in the valley. The hide from yesterday's kill still needs scraping. A tool broke and must be remade. Slowly, the day begins to sort itself through conversation. There is no breakfast table, no scheduled meal, no cereal bowl at 7 a.m. People eat when food is there, and hunger asks. This morning, there may be roasted roots left near the ashes, nuts stored in a skin pouch, dried berries from a lucky season, or meat from an animal taken 2 days before. The food is not fancy, but it is knowledge made edible. A root that would hurt your stomach raw becomes sweet and safe after slow roasting. A seed that would pass through the body uselessly becomes nourishment when cracked, ground, and heated. Cooking is not a recipe here. It is inherited science, practiced by hand. Your teeth work hard. Your jaw works hard. Meat is tough. Roots are fibrous. Nuts must be cracked just right. Children learn by watching where to place the shell, how much force to use, how to avoid crushing the nut inside. Nobody explains everything. The lesson lives in the hands. Beside the fire, an older woman sorts plants gathered yesterday. She removes a piece that has gone soft, keeps another for boiling, and sets aside bark used for medicine. Her knowledge is a library without shelves. She knows which leaves heal, which roots fill the belly, which mushrooms can be trusted, and which ones might end a life. This is one reason the simple phrase hunter-gatherer can mislead us. The hunting is dramatic. The gathering is the daily miracle. In many environments, plant foods, nuts, seeds, tubers, berries, shellfish, eggs, insects, and small animals may be more reliable
than the great kill everyone remembers in stories.
The morning meal is not private. Food moves through hands. A toddler is given softened root. A hunter chews a strip of meat, but does not claim the animal as his alone. Sharing is not kindness in the modern, optional sense. Sharing is survival insurance. Today, I feed you. Tomorrow, you may feed me. When everyone has eaten enough to begin, the camp divides gently. Some will go gathering, some will check traps or tracks. Some will stay to work hides, repair tools, tend children, and protect the fire. The day does not split into work and life. The work is the life, and the life is full of pauses.
Now follow the gatherers. The sun has risen higher, warming the stones. You walk with an aunt, a cousin still learning, and a child carried in a sling of softened hide. The tools are simple: digging sticks, baskets, a stone flake, leather pouches. The knowledge behind those tools is anything but simple. You are not wandering. You are walking through a remembered map. There is an oak grove beyond the ridge, a marshy place where cattails grow, a slope where berries ripen first because the sun touches it longer, and a patch of soil where tubers hide beneath a certain grass. The land is familiar, but never boring.
Gathering is attention in motion. Your aunt sees what you would miss: a change in soil color, a broken stem, a cluster of insects, the birds moving toward a fruiting tree. She stops at a patch that looks empty. Then her digging stick enters the ground, twists, loosens, and lifts a pale root the size of a fist. She does not simply hand it over. She tells a story. Her mother once mistook a similar plant during a hard season. This safe one has one leaf pattern. The dangerous one has another. The difference is small, but small differences can decide whether a child eats or a whole camp suffers. Memory becomes safety.
A young cousin repeats the lesson, touching the leaves, counting the veins, tasting nothing until told. This is school without walls. Every plant is a teacher. Every mistake from the past becomes a warning carried forward. The band survives because the dead and the old still speak through stories. You walk miles, through grass, across stones, over streams cold enough to bite the ankles. A modern hiker might call this a serious day. For you, it is ordinary. Your feet know the ground. Your eyes keep moving. One sense watches plants. Another listens for animals. Another notices the sky.
The baskets grow heavier. Roots for roasting, berries for eating now, seeds for grinding later, bark for medicine, a handful of mushrooms selected with great care, and perhaps a comb of honey found in a hollow tree. Honey is treasure. Sweetness is rare enough to feel almost supernatural. By afternoon, your shoulders ache, but the work has a rhythm. Stop, notice, dig, cut, carry. Talk, laugh, teach, move again. There is no overseer, no wage, no deadline. But the task matters completely. Tonight, people will eat because of these baskets. The hunters may return with glory. The gatherers return with reliability.
Some days, though, the hunters do go out. Not every day, not always. Hunting large animals is risky, uncertain, and expensive in energy. It can fail even when everyone is skilled. But when the signs are right, fresh tracks,
good weather, enough strong adults, the band may attempt something bold. The hunting group prepares without drama. Spears are checked, stone points are tightened with resin and sinew. A spear thrower may be carried where the technology is known. People discuss wind, terrain, animal behavior, and escape routes. A good hunt begins long before anyone throws a weapon.
They move quietly, not rushing, reading every mark. A hoof print in sand, a bent blade of grass, a fresh dropping, a smear on bark. To an untrained eye, the animal is gone. To a skilled tracker, it has left a sentence across the earth. How long ago it passed, how fast it moved, whether it was calm or frightened. Perhaps the quarry is a deer, an antelope, a wild horse, or something smaller and more realistic than the huge beasts of cinema. The hunters may try ambush. They may drive animals toward others waiting downwind. In hot, open country, some groups may use endurance and pressure. No single method defines all humans.
What matters is cooperation. One person watches the wind, another circles wide, another reads the next track. Spoken words are kept low. Gestures do most of the work. The hunt is intelligence stretched across several bodies, each person holding one part of the plan. If the hunt fails, the group returns tired and quiet. This happens often. The animal hears, smells, or senses them and is gone. There is no shame if the attempt was good. Tonight, the baskets will matter even more. Failure is expected in a world where animals also wish to live.
If the hunt succeeds, everything changes. A fallen animal is not just meat. It is hide, bone, sinew, fat, marrow, tools, clothing, and story. The first moments may include silence, thanks, or ritual. We cannot know the exact words, but many human cultures treat a kill as more than a technical success. Butchering is skilled work. Cuts must be quick and precise. Organs spoil fastest and may be eaten soon. Hide is removed carefully. Bones are saved for marrow or tools. Sinew is dried for thread. Nothing useful is casually thrown away, because everything took risk to obtain. Meat also creates a social moment. Who carried it? Who struck first? Who eats first? Who receives the liver, the fat, the marrow? Customs differ, but everyone watches generosity. A selfish hunter may eat well tonight and lose help later. A generous one becomes safer in the memories of others. Back at camp, another kind of work continues. Making. The sound is steady, almost musical. Tap, tap, tap. Stone against stone. A woman sits with a piece of flint, shaping it by removing flakes at exactly the right angle. This is not smashing rocks. It is physics held in the hand. Flint breaks predictably if you know it well. Obsidian can be sharper, but more fragile. Chert may be stubborn. Bone and antler behave differently again. Every material has a temperament. The best toolmakers know this the way musicians know instruments. By sight, sound, touch, and memory. A blade comes free, thin and bright along the edge. It can cut meat, scrape hide, shape wood, or open a joint.
But a tool is not finished when stone is sharp. It must be hafted into a handle with resin, fiber, and sinew. Adhesive is made from plants, charcoal, bone dust, and patience. Nearby, someone scrapes a hide stretched on a frame. The sound is rough, repetitive, necessary. Fat and membrane must be removed before the hide rots. Then comes softening, smoking, or tanning with mixtures learned over generations. Clothing is not fashion first. It is survival technology. And yet, fashion is there too. A seam can be neat. A bead can be added. A strip of dyed leather can mark identity. People have almost always wanted useful things to be beautiful. A spear point can be symmetrical beyond necessity. A bone needle can be polished. Craft carries pride. Children gather around these makers, the way children now gather around screens. They watch hands. They imitate. They fail. A boy strikes stone and produces useless chips. An aunt laughs, adjusts his grip, and lets him try again. No one expects mastery quickly. A lifetime is the school. This is how knowledge travels, not through textbooks, but through bodies. The angle of a strike, the smell of a plant resin ready to use, the feel of a hide becoming soft enough, the rhythm of twisting fibers into cord. Human culture lives first in gestures, then in words. Now we come to one of the most surprising parts of the day, the empty spaces. Early humans were not working frantically from sunrise to sleep. Ethnographic studies of living, foraging societies vary, and none can perfectly recreate the past. But they suggest that subsistence work was often intermittent, flexible, and mixed with rest. There are intense bursts, a long walk, a difficult hunt, hours of scraping hide, carrying wood, gathering plants. But there were also stretches of sitting, talking, grooming, playing, staring at clouds, making ornaments, and doing nothing that would look productive on a modern schedule. Rest is not laziness. Rest protects the body that keeps you alive. A person might sit near the fire, turning a smooth stone in one hand. Two adults tease each other about a failed attempt to catch fish. Children chase, wrestle, build little worlds out of sticks, pretend to hunt, pretend to cook, pretend to be the adults they are studying. Play is rehearsal, disguised as joy. Adults play too. There may be tossing games, guessing games, songs that challenge memory, jokes that everyone has heard before and still enjoys. We cannot recover all the rules of vanished games, but small carved objects, counters, figurines, and decorated pieces remind us that imagination has always needed objects to hold. Then there is grooming. Someone sits behind a friend and parts their hair, removing dirt, insects, and burrs. It is practical, but also intimate. The fingers move slowly. Conversation softens. To be groomed is to be told without words. You belong here. Your body matters. I am paying attention. Ochre may come out in the quiet hours. Red powder mixed with fat or water becomes paint for skin, hair, tools, hides, or stone. It may protect, decorate, signal, or sanctify. One meaning does not cancel another. Humans are very good at making one act do many kinds of work. A line across the face might mean group identity. A necklace of shells may show travel, trade, memory, or status. A tooth from a dangerous animal might become proof of courage. The body is the first canvas, and long before written language,
people were already speaking through color, pattern, and ornament. As daylight softens, the social world grows thicker. In a band of 20, 30, or 40 people, everyone knows everyone too well. They know who shares, who exaggerates, who sulks, who is brave, who is careless, who is gentle with children, and who eats faster when others are not looking. There are no police, courts, or written laws, so reputation does heavy work. Gossip is not just gossip. It is memory, warning, justice, and entertainment woven together. A selfish act becomes a story. A generous act becomes one too. In a small group, the story of you may feed or starve you later. Conflict still happens. Of course it does. Someone breaks a tool, takes the wrong piece of meat, insults a partner, frightens a child, or refuses a task. But a feud can endanger everyone. So people joke, mediate, tease, apologize, and pressure each other back toward balance. Peace is a survival skill.
Elders matter enormously here. An old person may no longer run as fast or carry as far, but they remember winters, floods, migrations, sicknesses, plant seasons, dangerous valleys, old alliances, and old mistakes. In a world without writing, an elder is a walking archive of what has nearly killed the group before. Children belong not only to two parents, but to the whole camp. A baby may be held by an aunt, fed by a mother, distracted by a cousin, protected by a grandfather, and taught by anyone patient enough to answer questions. This wider care is one of the quiet engines of human survival.
Beyond the band are other bands. People do not live as isolated families wandering forever alone. At certain seasons, when food is abundant or travel is easier, groups meet. These gatherings may bring trade, courtship, news, songs, marriages, stories, warnings, and new technologies moving from hand to hand. A shell from the coast may travel inland through many exchanges. A piece of fine stone may come from far away. A story about a dangerous pass may save lives months later. A new way to fasten a spear point may spread without anyone thinking of innovation. It is simply a useful thing worth copying.
By 40,000 years ago, language was almost certainly rich enough for all of this. Planning, joking, teaching, grieving, bargaining, flirting, warning, remembering, and imagining. Not a few grunts, not crude signals. Human speech was already one of the most powerful tools on Earth. And with language comes story. As the day leans toward evening, the practical world begins to open into the symbolic one. A hunter does not merely say, "The deer ran north." He becomes the deer, the wind, the mistake, the moment the spear missed by a handspan. Memory turns into performance. Art belongs to this same world. Some of the most famous Paleolithic images are deep inside caves, far from sunlight and daily living. Horses, bison, lions, mammoths, hands, dots, lines, and signs appear on stone. The walls are not random surfaces. The shapes of the cave itself become part of the animals. Why paint in darkness? We do not know for certain, and that mystery is part of the power. The images may have taught young hunters. They may have honored animal spirits. They may have been prayers for abundance, records of seasons, visions from trance, or all these things at once.
A torch in a cave is not a neutral light. It flickers. It moves. A painted bison seems to breathe when flame passes over the curve of the rock. Imagine entering that chamber as a child, holding someone's hand, hearing voices echo from stone, seeing animals appear from darkness. You would remember it forever. Music also enters the night. Bone and ivory flutes from the Upper Paleolithic show that people were shaping sound with care tens of thousands of years ago. And for every flute that survived, there were likely drums, clappers, voices, whistles, and rhythms made from wood, skin, hands, and feet that left no trace.
When people sing together, something happens that is practical and mysterious at the same time. Breathing joins. Bodies move in rhythm. Fear loosens. The group feels larger than its separate bodies. Music is pleasure, but it is also social glue, a way of becoming us again after the dangers and irritations of the day. Perhaps someone begins with a low hum. Another voice joins. A stick taps wood. Children clap too early, then find the rhythm. Someone dances, not for an audience, but because the body wants to answer sound with motion. The firelight breaks the dancers into shadows that leap against stone. Spiritual life is harder to describe because belief does not fossilize. We find graves, ochre, ornaments, cave images, strange markings, and carefully placed objects. From these, we can say early humans did not treat the world as empty matter. They lived among meanings, presences, memories, and forces. A river might be more than water, a mountain more than stone, an animal more than meat. The dead may remain near, below, above, or within the stories told about them. A dream may be warning, visitation, memory, or imagination. The boundary between inner and outer worlds may not feel as firm as it does to us.
Death interrupts the camp. When someone dies, work changes shape. People speak more quietly. Children ask what has happened. The body may be placed carefully, sometimes with pigment, tools, beads, or food. We should be cautious about interpreting every burial, but care itself is visible. The dead are not simply discarded. Grief becomes story. Someone remembers the dead person's laugh, their skill, their temper, their generosity, their foolishness, the time they found water in a dry place, the time they made everyone angry and then saved everyone anyway. To remember is to keep them working inside the group a little longer. Now, late afternoon slides toward evening. This is when the world contracts. The landscape that felt wide and readable in daylight becomes uncertain in shadow. Predators begin to move. Children are called closer. Tools are gathered. Firewood is stacked. The camp pulls itself inward around flame. Before sleep, bedding must be prepared. A good bed is not luxury. It is insulation from cold ground, damp soil, insects, and stone. Grasses, reeds, leaves, moss, and hides make a barrier between flesh and earth. The arrangement of beds also maps the social world. Children near adults, elders protected, tensions quietly separated. The evening meal is often the largest moment of the day. Roots roast in ashes. Meat, if there is meat, turns slowly over flame.
Bones crack from marrow. Seeds are pounded. Fat melts. Smoke carries the smell through camp. Hunger sharpens everyone's attention, but custom shapes who receives what. The best pieces may go to children, elders, pregnant women, honored guests, skilled hunters, or those who need strength tomorrow. Every band has its own rules. The important thing is that food is never only food. It is memory, obligation, fairness, affection, power, and trust made visible. As people eat, they review the day. The gatherers tell where the roots were good. A tracker describes fresh signs near the river. Someone complains that a basket needs repair. Someone jokes about slipping in mud. These conversations are not small talk. They are the group updating its shared map of reality. Then the stories lengthen. The fire is lower now, good for listening. A familiar tale begins. An ancestor, an animal, a foolish mistake, a dangerous place, a lesson hidden under laughter. Children hear the same story again and again, and each time it lays another path in memory. Above the camp, the sky appears. Not the thin city sky, but a deep, crowded darkness full of stars. The Milky Way is a pale road. The moon changes shape across nights. Certain stars rise with certain seasons. Even without formal astronomy, people notice. The sky becomes calendar, compass, mystery, and storybook. Maybe a child asks whether the dead walk there among the lights. Maybe an elder points to a cluster of stars and names an animal. Maybe everyone knows that when one bright star returns before dawn, certain herds will soon move. Practical knowledge and wonder do not live in separate rooms here. Beyond the firelight, animals call. A wolf, perhaps? A hyena in some lands. A big cat in others. The exact dangers depend on place, but night belongs to more than humans. Thorn branches may guard one side of camp. Spears lie within reach. Someone sleeps lightly. Someone always listens. At the edge of some camps in later Ice Age times, there may be canids close enough to notice danger before humans do. Not modern pets as we know them, and not a certainty in every place or period. But wolves and early dogs belong somewhere in the long story of human nights. Their ears hear what ours miss. The fire settles into coals. A final piece of wood is added. Sparks rise, bright for a breath, then vanish. People curl under hides. A child presses cold feet against an adult's leg. An elder murmurs in sleep. The day, with all its walking and talking, making and watching, begins to loosen its grip. For a few hours, the camp is deeply vulnerable. Eyes closed, bodies still, minds wandering into dreams. And yet it is also protected by everything humans have learned to build together. Fire, tools, bedding, memory, cooperation, warning calls, shared knowledge, and the simple fact of sleeping close to those who will wake if you cry out. So what did early humans actually do all day? They worked, yes. They gathered roots, tracked animals, carried wood, shaped stone, scraped hides, cooked, watched children, repaired tools, tended fire, and listened for danger. But they also rested, played, sang, decorated, wondered, argued, forgave, remembered, and stared into the flames. Their lives were not easy. We should not romanticize hunger, grief, injury, childbirth, or winter. But we should also not flatten them into misery. A hard life can still contain beauty. A dangerous world can still contain laughter. A people without cities can still have art, intelligence, tenderness, and time.
In some ways, they had less than we do. Less medicine, less certainty, less comfort, fewer years on average, fewer protections against chance. In other ways, they may have had more of something many modern people miss: unbroken attention, direct contact with nature, practical community, and evenings not yet filled by glowing screens. They did not wake to alarms, but to light. They did not measure productivity in emails answered, but in fires kept, children fed, stories remembered, and paths found again. Their world was smaller in objects and larger in presence. Every smell, track, cloud, voice, and silence could matter. They lived by the sun. They watched for shifts. And even now, even when we remember the library, we can hear, somewhere far off, the waves on the beach at the entrance to the city.
Maybe that is why this ancient day still reaches us. Under all our technologies, we remain bodies that want warmth, voices, food, rhythm, meaning, and a safe place to sleep. We are still the animal that gathers around light in the dark and asks someone to tell us what happened before we were born. Tonight, you are not so far from them. The room is different. The fire may be a screen or a lamp. The predators may be worries, deadlines, and thoughts that circle too close. But the need is the same: to let the day end, to feel held by a story, to believe that morning can wait.
So imagine the last scene. The camp is quiet. Coals glow red beneath ash. The stars turn slowly above the sleeping band. Somewhere, a child fights sleep, asking for one more story. Someone reaches over, smooths their hair, and whispers that the hunt can wait until morning. 40,000 years pass. The same moon crosses the sky. The same human need remains: to be warm, to be safe, to belong, to dream. For now, there is nothing else you have to do. The world can wait outside the circle of firelight. The hunt can wait until morning. Rest under the ancient sky. But one day is only one thread in a much larger pattern. The real life of your ancestors was not measured in dates, but in seasons. Spring meant new shoots, eggs, swollen rivers, returning birds and animals made thin by winter. Summer meant berries, insects, fish, honey, long light, and the strange abundance that made people laugh more easily. Autumn was a season of urgency. Nuts had to be collected before animals took them. Hides had to be prepared before the cold deepened. Meat, when available, had to be dried, smoked, shared, or eaten. Wood had to be gathered. Tools had to be repaired. The air itself seemed to remind everyone that winter was not an idea. It was coming. Winter changed everything. The world grew quieter, harsher, and smaller. Snow could hide tracks or reveal them perfectly. Rivers might freeze.
plants disappeared beneath frost. People stayed closer to shelters, burned more wood, wore heavier skins, told longer stories, and learned again that survival was not one heroic act, but 1,000 small preparations made earlier. The body also lived differently. It was not trained in gyms or shaped by mirrors, but by necessity. Feet hardened from walking. Hands grew strong from gripping, scraping, digging, and carrying. Backs bent under baskets and hides. Knees learned slopes. Eyes learned distance. The whole body became an instrument tuned to the landscape. Pain was ordinary, but not ignored. A twisted ankle, a deep cut, a toothache, a fever. Each could become serious. People knew plants that soothed, bark that reduced pain, smoke that dried wounds, heat that loosened stiff muscles. Some healing worked. Some was hope. Often, the most powerful medicine was simply not being left alone. Care may be one of the oldest signs of humanity. Archaeologists have found ancient individuals who survived serious injuries or disabilities long enough to show that others helped them. Someone carried food to them. Someone waited. Someone protected them. In a world where every calorie mattered, compassion still found room to exist. Children grew up inside this web of care and danger. They were not separated from adult life. They saw blood, birth, death, hunger, tools, sex, conflict, jokes, rituals, and decisions. But they also had space to wander, imitate, ask, fail, and try again. Their education was not preparation for life later. It was life already beginning. A child might spend a morning chasing grasshoppers, an afternoon watching a hide being scraped, and an evening listening to a story about a river crossing that happened before they were born. Without knowing it, they were learning ecology, memory, morality, humor, danger, patience, and belonging, all at once.
Water shaped every decision. A good camp needed access to it, but not too close to flooding. Animals came to water, which meant food, but also predators. A stream could provide fish, reeds, clay, and tracks in soft mud. A dry season could turn familiar territory into a puzzle, forcing the band to move before thirst made the decision for them. Moving camp was never casual. Everything useful had weight. Hides, tools, children, fire, food, ornaments, memories, all had to be carried or left behind. People did not own much by modern standards, but what they owned mattered deeply. A good blade, a necklace, a pouch of pigment, a worked bone needle. Small things, heavy with meaning. When the group moved, the landscape unfolded like a remembered story. There was the ridge where lightning struck a tree, the valley where berries were sweet one summer and gone the next, the river bend where someone died, the cave where paintings waited in darkness. Places were not just locations, they were chapters. Weather was not background. It was an active character in every day. Wind could hide human scent from animals or carry it straight toward them. Rain could erase tracks, soften ground, fill containers, ruin a fire, or bring mushrooms. A cloud bank on the horizon might mean comfort, danger, or the need to change plans before anyone said so. Silence had many meanings.
There was peaceful silence, full stomachs, warm hands, someone sleeping nearby. There was listening silence, the whole camp pausing because a sound outside did not belong. There was grief silence after a death. There was awe silence, deep inside a cave when torchlight made painted animals seem alive. Fear was part of life, but it was not constant panic. People who panic all the time cannot track, gather, teach, or sleep. Instead, fear became knowledge. You learn which sounds matter, which animals avoid humans, which places feel wrong, which seasons are lean, which strangers arrive with trade, and which arrive with trouble.
Strangers were both risk and possibility. Another band might bring partners, songs, flint, shells, news, and laughter. They might also bring tension, disease, or old conflict. First meetings had rules: distance, gestures, gifts, careful speech. Hospitality and suspicion walked side by side because both could keep people alive. Trade was never only about objects. A shell necklace from the coast carried the coast with it. A blade made from distant stone carried the story of distance. A pigment color from another valley carried memory of another people. To exchange things was also to exchange trust, obligation, and proof that the world extended beyond your own campfire.
The night mind was different from the day mind. Dreams could feel important because they arrived from nowhere and spoke in images. A dead relative might appear. An animal might lead someone through a strange valley. A child might dream of falling. In the morning, these dreams could become warnings, jokes, prophecies, or stories. Without writing, memory had to be made unforgettable. That is why rhythm mattered. Repetition mattered. Songs mattered. A route could be remembered through a chant. A rule could be hidden inside a tale. A dangerous plant could be given a story so strange that no child would forget its leaves. Even boredom had value. A bored child watches ants. A resting hunter studies clouds. An elder, sitting quietly, notices that certain birds have changed direction. Time that looks empty can become attention. In a world without constant distraction, the mind has room to connect small details into useful patterns. There must also have been humor. We rarely imagine ancient laughter, but it is impossible to imagine humans without it. Someone slips in mud. A proud hunter misses badly. A child imitates an elder's serious walk. A joke softens a conflict before it becomes dangerous. Laughter is not trivial. It is social repair.
Love, too, was practical and mysterious. It meant desire, partnership, jealousy, shared food, sleeping warmth, protection, babies, arguments, tenderness, and grief. Some bonds lasted seasons. Some may have lasted lifetimes. The forms varied, but the ache of wanting one particular person near you is very old. And then there was solitude, rare but not absent. Someone might walk a little away from camp to think, collect wood, watch water, or grieve. Too much solitude was dangerous, but a little could be precious. Even in a communal world, the human mind sometimes needed a quiet place inside itself.
The more you imagine this life, the less simple it becomes. It was not paradise. It was not hell. It was not a motivational lesson or a lost golden age. It was human life under different conditions, more exposed to nature, more dependent on others, less buffered by systems, and perhaps more aware of every immediate thing. Civilization changed the bargain. Farming, villages, writing, cities, medicine, machines, and laws gave humans powers Paleolithic people could not have dreamed of. But every gain rearranged something. Time became measured. Work became separated. Food became stored. Strangers multiplied. The world grew safer in some ways, and more abstract in others.
That is why this ancient day still feels strangely personal. It asks us what a human being needs beneath all the layers. Food, warmth, sleep, safety, touch, play, story, beauty, purpose, and people who notice when we are missing. The list is not long. The difficulty is remembering it. Maybe the lesson is not that we should return to the past. We cannot, and we should not pretend that we want the hunger, illness, and danger that came with it. But we can borrow a rhythm. Work that has meaning, rest without guilt, meals shared without hurry, stories that bind us, and nights that are allowed to become dark.
Somewhere in your own life, there may still be a small Paleolithic circle waiting to be rebuilt. A table where people talk. A walk where you notice the weather. A craft made by hand. A song repeated. A child taught patiently. A phone put away long enough for the room to become real again. And maybe that is why we keep looking backward. Not because ancient people were simpler, but because they remind us that we are not only workers, consumers, profiles, schedules, or minds floating through screens. We are bodies around a fire, still hungry for warmth, rhythm, belonging, and a story that tells us where we are.
So when you imagine the Paleolithic, do not imagine only spears and teeth, caves and cold. Imagine hands. Hands lifting a child. Hands grinding pigment. Hands cutting meat. Hands smoothing hair. Hands passing food across firelight. Hands making tools. Making music. Making peace. Making a human world from raw earth and breath.
Thank you for spending this quiet time with me under the ancient sky. If this journey helped you slow down, rest, or see our shared human past a little differently, I'm grateful you were here. Sleep well, wherever you are listening from. May your night be warm, your thoughts grow gentle, and whatever waits outside the firelight, wait until morning.